Diana stared out the view screen of the transport shuttle as it made its final approach to Galactic Academy Station. The massive ring-shaped structure rotated slowly against the backdrop of an unfamiliar alien star system, its silvery surface gleaming in the light of the distant sun. She still couldn't believe she was here, one of only 5 humans selected for the prestigious intergalactic exchange program. "Would you stop hogging the window already?" Tyler's voice broke through her thoughts. "Some of us want to see what our home for the next 3 years looks like too." Diana rolled her eyes but shifted to the side, making room for her fellow human. "Sorry, it's so different from what I expected." "What did you expect? Some giant metal death trap floating in space?" Tyler chuckled, pressing his face against the view screen. His breath fogged the glass, and he quickly wiped it away. "No, I just thought it would look more alien, I guess." Diana shrugged. "This almost looks like something we could have built." "Convergent engineering," Brody chimed in from across the aisle, not looking up from his tablet. "Similar problems lead to similar solutions, regardless of species. The station's ring design creates artificial gravity through centrifugal force, the same approach we'd use." Jen groaned from her seat behind them. "Can we please not turn this into a physics lecture? I'm already nervous enough about being the first humans to attend this place." "Not the first," Caleb corrected, his eyes closed as he leaned back in his seat. "Just the first student exchange. Earth has had diplomatic representation here for almost a decade." Diana turned away from the window, looking at her 4 companions, the only other humans who would be attending the Galactic Academy. They had spent the last 6 months training together on Earth, learning what little humanity knew about the various alien species they would encounter, practicing with universal translators, and adjusting to different gravity scenarios. Yet Diana couldn't shake the feeling that nothing could truly prepare them for what lay ahead. The shuttle's speakers crackled to life. "Approaching final docking sequence. All passengers please secure your belongings and prepare for arrival procedures." Diana took a deep breath, attempting to calm her racing heart. This was it, the moment humanity would truly begin its integration into the wider galactic community. The 5 of them carried the hopes and expectations of their entire species on their shoulders. "Remember," she said, glancing at each of her companions, "we're representatives of Earth now. Whatever happens in there, we stick together." The others nodded solemnly as the shuttle aligned with the docking port. A mechanical thud reverberated through the cabin, followed by the hiss of equalizing pressure. "Welcome to Galactic Academy Station," the shuttle's AI announced. "Local time is 27:42 by station standard. Please proceed through decontamination and processing before entering the main concourse." The 5 humans gathered their belongings and moved toward the airlock. Diana led the way, stepping through into a long, sterile white corridor. Almost immediately, the differences in gravity became apparent, slightly lighter than Earth normal, making each step feel just a bit too bouncy. "Gravity's set at about 0.9 g, Brody muttered, confirming Diana's suspicion. "Compromise setting, probably." The corridor ended at a large chamber where several alien figures in uniform waited. Diana recognized a few species from their briefings: a tall, spindly Kelleran with 4 arms and iridescent skin, a squat, heavily plated Draxian, and what appeared to be a Pythrox with its distinctive feline features and copper-colored fur. "Human exchange students," the Kelleran announced in a melodic voice that their translators rendered into slightly stilted English. "We welcome you to Galactic Academy Station. I am Administrative Director Nelvac. Please step forward individually for processing and assignment." One by one, they underwent scans, provided biometric data, and received their student credentials, small metallic discs that adhered to their wrists and connected to their personal devices. Diana noted with interest that the administrators maintained a careful distance from them at all times, their movements betraying a subtle wariness. You have been assigned to dormitory block E7. Director Nelvac informed them when the processing was complete. This is a specialized environment, modified to accommodate your unique physiological requirements. There was a peculiar emphasis on the word unique that made Diana raise an eyebrow. Unique how exactly? She asked. The Kelleran's 4 hands made a complicated gesture that the translator couldn't interpret. Earth is classified as a Class 12 Deathworld. Your species has evolved under environmental conditions that would be lethal to most sapient life forms. Your dormitory has been adapted accordingly. A Deathworld, Tyler repeated, looking surprised. That's not how we would describe it. Classifications are objective, not subjective. The Draxian official interjected, its voice a deep rumble. Your planet's high gravity, extreme temperature variations, atmospheric composition, prevalence of natural disasters, and abundance of predatory species place it firmly in the highest danger category. Diana exchanged glances with the others. Their briefings had mentioned that aliens might find Earth conditions harsh, but the term Deathworld hadn't come up. Is that why everyone's keeping their distance? Jen asked bluntly. Director Nelvac's skin rippled in what might have been discomfort. Safety protocols recommend a minimum distance of 2 meters when interacting with Deathworld species. Your physiological adaptations, bone density, muscle mass, immune systems, and particularly your microbiome, pose potential hazards to non-Deathworld life forms. We're not contagious, Brody protested. We've been through extensive decontamination procedures. Nonetheless, protocols will be observed, the director replied firmly. Now, if you will follow orientation guide Athalia, she will escort you to your dormitory and provide further information about your academic schedules. The Pythrox stepped forward, her copper fur gleaming under the lights. Unlike the administrators, she approached to within a normal conversational distance, though Diana noticed a slight tremor in her movements. Greetings, humans, Athalia said, her feline eyes blinking slowly. I volunteered to be your guide, despite the risks. I find your species fascinating. That's reassuring, I think, Diana replied with a tentative smile. Thank you for volunteering. Do not mention it, Athalia responded, gesturing toward an adjacent corridor. Please follow me. The main concourse can be overwhelming for new arrivals, particularly those unaccustomed to diverse sapient species. As they walked, Diana noticed that other beings in the corridors gave them a wide berth, some even pressing themselves against walls as they passed. Whispers followed in their wake, the words Deathworlders and humans repeated often enough that even without the translators, she would have recognized them. Is it always going to be like this? Caleb muttered under his breath. Like we're walking biohazards. Give it time, Diana whispered back. We're probably the first humans most of them have ever seen. Athalia led them through a bewildering maze of corridors, occasionally providing commentary about the facilities they passed. Diana tried to memorize the route, but the station's layout seemed deliberately convoluted, with identical-looking intersections and minimal signage. The station design incorporates elements from 17 different architectural traditions, Athalia explained when Brody commented on this. Navigational confusion is an unfortunate side effect for newcomers. You will receive station maps on your personal devices, though they are somewhat simplified for security reasons. Finally, they arrived at a sealed doorway, marked with symbols that their translators identified as both Dormitory E7 and Hazardous Environment Containment. Hazardous Environment Containment, Jen read aloud, her voice rising. Are we being quarantined? Athalia's ears flattened slightly. It is merely a technical designation. Your dormitory is specially reinforced and contains Earth-standard environmental controls, including higher gravity, specialized atmospheric composition, and reinforced furnishings, designed to withstand your greater strength. So it's for our comfort, not to protect everyone else from us? Tyler asked skeptically. Both objectives are served, Athalia admitted. The dormitory is also equipped with superior filtration systems and containment protocols to minimize microbial transfer. This is standard procedure for all Deathworld species, not a measure specific to humans. Are there other Deathworld species at the Academy? Diana asked curiously. Very few, a small number of Kryvax from Teros Prime, and occasionally visiting Nargrim scholars. Athalia's tail swished in what might have been discomfort. Deathworlds are rare, and spacefaring civilizations arising from them rarer still. The door slid open, revealing a spacious common area that looked surprisingly Earth-like, with comfortable seating, entertainment systems, and a small kitchen area. 5 doors led off from the main room, presumably to individual sleeping quarters. Your personal chambers have been assigned according to the preferences you submitted during application, Athalia explained. Each is equipped with a private hygiene station, sleep platform, study area, and environmental controls. Diana stepped into the dormitory, immediately feeling the increased gravity. It wasn't quite Earth normal, perhaps 0.95 g, but close enough to feel natural after the lighter gravity of the station proper. This actually looks nice, Jen admitted, examining the kitchen area. Though I notice there's no cooking equipment. Cooking equipment? Athalia's head tilted in confusion. Nutrient dispensers are available in your quarters, and in the common dining facilities. Is additional food preparation necessary? The 5 humans exchanged glances. Humans typically prepare their food through various cooking methods. Brody explained. It's both cultural and practical. We've evolved to consume cooked food. Athalia's eyes widened. Fascinating. You apply heat to organic matter before consumption. This is a common practice. Very common, Diana confirmed. Is that unusual? Most sapient species consume nutrients in their natural state. Athalia replied. The application of heat to food is unexpected. I will make a note that cooking equipment should be provided. Thank you, Diana said sincerely. It would make a big difference in helping us feel at home. Athalia nodded, her tail swishing in what appeared to be excitement. I have many questions about human customs, but those can wait. Your orientation continues tomorrow at 8 o'clock station time. I recommend you use the remainder of today to settle in and adjust to the station's cycle. After Athalia departed, the 5 humans explored their new living space more thoroughly. As promised, each bedroom was tailored to their submitted preferences. Diana's featured a small library of physical books. Tyler's had enhanced entertainment options. Brody's contained additional scientific equipment. Jen's had a spacious wardrobe, and Caleb's included athletic equipment, modified for the station's environment. Could be worse, Tyler admitted as they reconvened in the common area. At least they're trying to accommodate us. Still doesn't change the fact that everyone out there thinks we're dangerous monsters from a death planet. Jen pointed out, flopping onto one of the couches. Did you see how they looked at us, like we might explode at any moment? To be fair, they've probably never encountered humans before, Brody said reasonably. And if Earth really is classified as a Class 12 death world, they might have legitimate concerns. Diana sat across from them, considering. We need to change their perception. Show them that we're not just Deathworlders, we're people, with our own culture, strengths and perspectives to contribute. Easier said than done, when they won't come within 2 meters of us, Caleb muttered. Then we start with the ones who will, Diana replied firmly. Like Athalia, she's curious about us. That's a foundation we can build on. What about classes? Tyler asked. We'll be interacting with other species there, right? Diana nodded slowly. Exactly. That's our opportunity to show what humans are really like. We need to be friendly, helpful, and well as non-threatening as possible. So basically, we need to be galactic ambassadors while also trying to pass our classes in an alien education system. Jen summarized with a sigh. No pressure, we knew this wouldn't be easy, Diana reminded them. But we're making history here. The first human students at the Galactic Academy. What we do here matters. The others nodded in agreement, their expressions a mixture of determination and apprehension. As they continued discussing strategies for the days ahead, Diana found herself wondering what challenges awaited them, and whether humanity truly belonged among the stars. Diana woke to the soft chime of her alarm, momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar surroundings. The room's lighting gradually increased, simulating an Earth sunrise. She blinked, remembering where she was. Galactic Academy Station, Dormitory E7, the first day of classes. Her sleep had been fitful, disturbed by dreams of being trapped in glass containers while alien beings studied her like a dangerous specimen. The term Deathworlder had echoed repeatedly through her subconscious. Pushing aside her unease, Diana prepared for the day, grateful that at least the hygiene facilities were relatively familiar, if more advanced than Earth equivalents. The sonic shower left her skin tingling, but oddly refreshed. When she emerged into the common area, she found the others already awake. Brody was examining what appeared to be a holographic map of the station, while Jen and Tyler were arguing over the nutrient dispenser. "This isn't food," Jen was saying, poking at a gelatinous cube on her plate. "I don't care what the nutritional analysis says, this is colored protein goo." "It's not that bad," Tyler countered, though his expression as he chewed suggested otherwise. "Kind of tastes like, actually, I have no idea what this tastes like." "Guys," Diana interrupted, "where's Caleb?" "Already left," Brody replied without looking up from his map. "Said something about wanting to explore the exercise facilities before orientation." Diana sighed. "We were supposed to stick together, remember? First impressions matter." "Pretty sure that ship has sailed," Jen muttered, abandoning her breakfast attempt. "They already think we're dangerous freaks, which is exactly why we need to present a united front," Diana insisted. "Come on, we should try to find Caleb before orientation starts." The corridors outside their dormitory were busier than the previous day, filled with a dizzying array of alien species moving purposefully toward their destinations. Diana noticed that the same pattern held. Beings moved aside as they approached, maintaining the apparent safety perimeter. "This is ridiculous," Tyler whispered as a group of tentacled aliens pressed themselves against a wall to avoid them. "We don't even get a chance to introduce ourselves before they're running away." "It's not personal," Brody reminded him. "It's institutional protocol based on their classification system." "Doesn't make it feel any better," Tyler grumbled. They followed the station map toward the physical training facilities, navigating the confusing layout with some difficulty. Several wrong turns later, they found themselves in a vast, open space filled with various exercise equipment, much of it unrecognizable. Caleb was easy to spot, the only human in the area, using what appeared to be a gravity variable resistance system. A small crowd of alien students had gathered at a distance, watching with a mixture of fascination and alarm as he effortlessly manipulated weights that, according to the display, were set to 3 times standard gravity. "Great," Jen whispered. "Way to reinforce the humans are terrifying." Narrative. Diana approached Caleb, forcing a smile for the benefit of the onlookers. "Hey, we've been looking for you. Orientation starts in 20 minutes. Caleb set down the weights, seemingly oblivious to the attention. "Just wanted to get a workout in. These facilities are amazing. They can simulate gravity up to 4G. I've never been able to train like this before." "That's great," Diana replied, acutely aware of the whispers around them. "But maybe save the superhuman feats of strength for when we're not trying to convince everyone we're not dangerous. Understanding dawned on Caleb's face as he finally noticed their audience. Oh, right, sorry. As they left the training area, Diana heard snippets of conversation behind them. Lifting mass equivalent to a juvenile Krogan, evolved in triple our gravity. Imagine the internal reinforcement their skeletal structure must have. The orientation session was held in a large amphitheater-like space, with students grouped by species. The 5 humans were assigned seats in a section marked with the now familiar hazardous environment symbol, separated from the nearest non-human students by several empty rows. Subtle, Jen commented dryly. Director Nelvac stood at the center of the amphitheater, flanked by representatives of what appeared to be the Academy's senior faculty. The Kellerans' 4 arms moved in elaborate patterns as they welcomed the assembled students, speaking in a language that the humans' translators rendered into English. Diversity of thought and tradition is our greatest strength, Nelvac was saying. For over 700 cycles, the Galactic Academy has served as the pinnacle of education in the known universe, bringing together minds from across the galaxy to share knowledge and foster understanding. The director paused, then continued in a slightly different tone. This year, we are particularly pleased to welcome representatives from several newly contacted species, including our first exchange students from Sol 3, known to its inhabitants as Earth. All eyes turned toward the human section. Diana felt a momentary panic as she realized they were expected to acknowledge the introduction. She stood, the others quickly following her lead, and gave a small wave. The human representatives, Nelvac continued, join us as part of our ongoing commitment to galactic inclusion, despite the challenges posed by their Deathworld origins. We ask all students to respect safety protocols when interacting with Deathworld species, while also extending the same academic courtesy afforded to all Academy attendees. Diana winced at the phrasing, which managed to simultaneously welcome them and mark them as dangerous outsiders. As they sat back down, she leaned toward the others. Academic courtesy, she whispered. Not quite the warm welcome I was hoping for. Better than tolerate the dangerous monsters, Tyler replied quietly. The orientation continued with introductions of key faculty members and explanations of Academy protocols. Diana tried to focus, but found herself distracted by the constant awareness of being separate, physically and socially, from the rest of the student body. After the general session, students were divided into smaller groups based on their academic focuses. Diana, who had applied to study comparative xenoanthropology, found herself assigned to Faculty Group 7, Historical and Cultural Sciences. Looks like we're splitting up, she told the others, checking her schedule. Brody and I are in Group 7, Tyler's in Engineering, Jen's in Arts and Communication, and Caleb's in Applied Sciences. They're separating us. Jen looked concerned. I thought we'd at least have some classes together. Different academic tracks, Brody pointed out, just like universities back home. But we'll still have core curriculum courses together, and obviously we're living in the same dorm. Diana nodded. We'll meet back at the dorm for lunch, compare notes on our first classes. Stay positive, remember why we're here. With that, they reluctantly parted ways, each following their assigned paths through the station. Diana and Brody walked together toward the Historical Sciences section, consulting their maps frequently to avoid getting lost. Do you think it's deliberate? Diana asked quietly as they walked. Separating us, I mean. Brody considered the question. Hard to say. Could be normal academic sorting. Could be they don't want too many Deathworlders in one place. Either way, might be good for us to interact with different groups, spread the human goodwill around. Assuming anyone will talk to us, Diana replied. They arrived at a modestly sized classroom, where about 20 alien students were already seated. As Diana and Brody entered, the room fell silent, all eyes turning toward them. After a moment's hesitation, Diana straightened her shoulders and walked to two empty seats, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. The instructor, a tall being with reflective crystalline skin that refracted light in mesmerizing patterns, regarded them with what might have been curiosity. Our Terran students," the instructor said, their voice creating harmonics that the translator struggled to fully capture. "I am Professor Recitalut, primary instructor for Introduction to Galactic Historical Methodologies. You are Diana Chen and Brody Mackenzie, correct?" "Yes, Professor," Diana confirmed, relieved that at least the instructor was willing to address them directly. "Excellent. While I have studied the historical development of Sol 3 societies through relay data, I have never had the opportunity to instruct Terrans directly. This should prove most illuminating." The professor's crystalline face shifted in what might have been a smile. "Now to begin our session." As the class progressed, Diana found herself both fascinated and frustrated. The professor's teaching style was engaging, incorporating holographic displays and interactive elements, but the content itself revealed how Earth was perceived by the wider galactic community. Historical development on Deathworld planets follows distinctive patterns, Professor Recitali explained, displaying a comparative chart. The constant environmental pressures lead to rapid evolutionary adaptations and social structures centered around survival. Military development typically precedes medical advances, and resource competition remains a dominant theme well into technological maturity. Diana raised her hand, waiting to be acknowledged before speaking. "Professor, with respect, I think that characterization oversimplifies human history. While survival pressures certainly shaped our development, our artistic and philosophical traditions emerged very early in our civilization, often contemporaneously with military innovations." The professor's crystalline surface rippled. "An interesting perspective, student Diana. Perhaps you would provide examples from Terran history to illustrate your point. The class would benefit from a primary source perspective." Put on the spot, Diana nevertheless saw an opportunity. For the next few minutes, she spoke about the development of art, music, literature, and philosophy throughout human history, emphasizing how these elements reflected not just survival concerns, but deeper questions about meaning, beauty, and ethics. When she finished, there was a moment of silence before the professor responded. "A compelling argument, student Diana. It seems the standard texts on Deathworld cultural evolution may benefit from revision based on direct observation rather than theoretical models." The professor turned to the class. "This illustrates a key principle of historical methodology. Primary sources and direct testimony often reveal nuances that broader theoretical frameworks may miss." Diana felt a small surge of satisfaction. It was a minor victory, but perhaps the first step in changing perceptions. As the class continued, she noticed some of the alien students watching her with what appeared to be increased interest, rather than just wariness. When the session ended, one of them, a serpentine being with iridescent scales, approached, maintaining the 2-meter safety distance, but clearly intending to communicate. "Your perspective on Terran cultural development was fascinating," the student said, their forked tongue flickering as they spoke. "I am Sithis of the Naga Collective. My focus is comparative mythological systems across species boundaries." "Diana Chen," she replied with a smile. "My focus is xenoanthropology, especially how different species interpret shared experiences. A complementary area of study." Sithis observed. "Perhaps we might exchange reference materials. I have compiled significant data on creation myths across 17 species classifications." "I'd like that," Diana said, genuinely pleased at this first normal academic interaction. "I can share some human mythological texts as well. We have incredible diversity in our belief systems." By the time Diana and Brody left the classroom, both had managed to establish tentative academic connections with several classmates. They were still clearly viewed as other. The safety distance was meticulously maintained, but at least some barriers had begun to fall. Not bad for a first class, Brody remarked as they navigated toward their next sessions. Your little speech about human culture definitely made an impression. It's a start, Diana agreed, but we've got a long way to go before they see us as colleagues rather than specimens. One class at a time, Brody replied optimistically. See you at lunch. Diana's next class, Principles of Xenolinguistic Analysis, proved more challenging. The instructor, a diminutive being with multiple sensory appendages, seemed distinctly uncomfortable with her presence and addressed her only indirectly. The subject matter itself was fascinating, exploring how biological differences shaped language development across species, but Diana left feeling more isolated than before. By the time lunch arrived, she was mentally exhausted from navigating the complex social dynamics. She made her way back to dormitory E7, hoping the others had fared better. When she arrived, she found Jen already there, looking frustrated as she battled with the nutrient dispenser. This thing refuses to make anything resembling actual food, Jen complained. Everything comes out as either gel cubes or paste. I haven't had a single solid thing to chew all day. How were your classes? Diana asked, collapsing onto one of the couches. Mixed, Jen replied, abandoning the dispenser and sitting across from Diana. My interspecies media course was actually pretty good. The professor used some human film clips as examples and seemed genuinely interested in our narrative structures. But harmonics and non-verbal communication was a disaster. The instructor kept using me as an example of primitive threat displays because apparently our facial expressions evolved to intimidate predators. Diana winced. Ouch. Yeah, not my favorite 4 hours. Jen sighed. Did you at least make some progress with the history nerds? A little, Diana admitted. Made some academic contacts at least. No friends yet, but it's early days. The door slid open, admitting Tyler, whose expression suggested his day had been no better. Engineering students are the same across the galaxy, he announced, dropping his tablet on the table, smug, condescending, and absolutely convinced they know everything. Except these ones also think I might contaminate them with my deadly Earth bacteria. That bad? Diana asked sympathetically. Worse, Tyler replied. I got paired with a Draxian for our first project. He refused to touch anything I'd handled and kept making comments about Deathworld engineering being crude and simplistic. I nearly walked out. Brody arrived next, looking thoughtful rather than frustrated. Interesting first day, he remarked. Did you know that most spacefaring species evolved on planets with significantly lower gravity and fewer environmental hazards than Earth? Apparently we're something of an evolutionary anomaly. Great, Jen muttered. So we're actually freaks of nature. That makes me feel so much better. Caleb was the last to return, his mood better than the others. The applied sciences faculty are actually pretty cool, he reported. Once they got over their initial caution, they were really interested in how humans approach problem solving. My adaptable physiology professor wants to run some comparative tests with my consent, of course. At least someone had a good day, Tyler said with a sigh. Diana looked around at her companions, tired, frustrated, but still determined. It's just day one, she reminded them. We knew this would be challenging, but we've all made at least some connections, found some common ground. That's where it starts. What we need, Jen said suddenly, sitting up straighter, is to show them something uniquely human that isn't threatening. Something cultural, something that bridges gaps. Like what? Tyler asked skeptically. A slow smile spread across Jen's face. Like cooking. Did you notice there's no cooking in this entire station? They eat everything raw or processed through those horrible dispensers. If we could show them what real food is like, that could actually work, Diana said, considering the idea. Food is one of the most universal cultural connections. Every species eats, but according to Athalia, most don't cook. One problem, Brody pointed out. We don't have any cooking equipment yet. Athalia said she'd make a note of our request, but who knows how long that will take. So we improvise, Jen replied with newfound enthusiasm. We're Deathworlders, right? Adaptability is supposed to be our thing. As they debated the feasibility of introducing alien species to human cuisine, Diana felt a renewed sense of purpose. Perhaps their path to acceptance wouldn't come through academic prowess or physical capabilities, but through something as fundamentally human as a shared meal. Let's do it, she decided. Operation Culinary Diplomacy is a go. The next few days fell into a pattern as the humans adjusted to life at the academy. Classes remained challenging, both academically and socially, but small improvements appeared. Some alien students began to engage with them more directly, asking questions about Earth and human experience. Faculty members varied in their approach. Some maintained rigid adherence to safety protocols, while others displayed genuine curiosity about their Deathworld students. Diana found herself becoming something of an unofficial spokesperson for humanity in her historical and cultural sciences courses. Professor Richitali had taken a particular interest in her perspectives, often calling on her to provide the Terran viewpoint on various historical methodologies. Your species' historical consciousness is fascinating, the professor remarked, after one particularly engaging discussion. The emphasis you place on individual historical actors rather than broad social forces reflects your evolutionary heritage, each human perceiving themselves as a potential agent of significant change. That's an interesting interpretation, Diana replied. I've never thought about it that way. But I think it's also related to our shorter lifespans compared to many species here. When you only live for 70 to 100 years, you're very aware of how history is made in the moment, by specific choices. The professor's crystalline surface shimmered in what Diana had come to recognize as thoughtful consideration. A profound observation, student Diana. Perhaps there are advantages to your species' temporal perspective that longer-lived beings might benefit from examining. Such moments of connection were balanced by continued frustrations. The safety perimeter remained firmly in place for most species. The nutrient dispensers continued to produce unappetizing fare, and the station's environmental settings, outside their dormitory, left the humans perpetually chilled and slightly short of breath. Their plan for culinary diplomacy had stalled due to lack of equipment, until Athalia brought unexpected news during one of her regular visits to check on their adaptation. I have submitted your request for cooking apparatus, she informed them, her tail swishing with what seemed like excitement. It required significant justification to the Administrative Council, but they have approved a limited installation in your dormitory. That's fantastic, Jen exclaimed. When will it arrive? Installation teams will modify your nutrition center tomorrow, Athalia replied. I must admit I am quite curious about this cooking process. Would it be permissible for me to observe when you first use the equipment? Diana exchanged glances with the others. Of course, she said warmly. In fact, we'd be honored if you'd join us for a meal. We've been wanting to share this aspect of human culture. Athalia's ears perked up. You would prepare food for me to consume. Is that safe? We'll check the compatibility of ingredients first, Brody assured her. Many human foods should be perfectly digestible for Pythrox physiology, based on the biochemical profiles I've studied. Then I accept your invitation with gratitude, Athalia said, her posture conveying genuine enthusiasm. I shall inform my instructor, Professor Seaheros, as well. He has expressed scholarly interest in Terran customs. After Athalia departed, the humans gathered in the common area, energized by this development. This is perfect, Diana said. If we can impress Athalia and this professor,
word will spread. Food is universal. It could be our way in. We should plan the menu carefully, Jen advised. Nothing too spicy or strongly flavored for their first experience. And definitely nothing raw. We don't want to confuse them about what cooking actually is. Assuming the equipment they provide actually allows for real cooking, Tyler added. For all we know, we'll get some alien version of an easy bake oven. The next day they returned from classes to find their dormitory's nutrition center transformed. The basic dispenser had been supplemented with what appeared to be heating elements, cutting surfaces, and various containers. The design was unfamiliar, but the functions were recognizable enough. Not exactly a gourmet kitchen, Jen observed, examining the equipment. But I can work with this. They spent the evening planning their culinary debut, assigning tasks and discussing options based on the available supplies. The station's central repository included a surprising variety of organic materials, some familiar, others completely alien, that could be requisitioned for nutritional research purposes. When Athalia arrived the following day, accompanied by a tall, reedy alien that she introduced as Professor Seharas, the humans were ready. Jen had taken charge of the kitchen area, with the others assisting according to her directions. "Welcome to our dormitory," Diana greeted the visitors. "We're honored that you've accepted our invitation." Athalia's eyes were wide as she observed the activity in the kitchen. The application of heat to organic matter, it produces these aromas. Fascinating. Professor Seharas, a scholarly-looking being with elongated limbs and a ridge of sensory nodes along his cranium, observed with similar interest. "In my studies of emergent sentient behaviors, food preparation rituals appear in approximately 62% of species. However, the specific practice of thermal modification is far less common. For humans, cooking isn't just about taste," Diana explained as they moved to the common area. "It's deeply cultural, social, and even evolutionary. We've been cooking for hundreds of thousands of years. Some anthropologists believe it played a key role in our cognitive development. By pre-digesting nutrients through thermal processing, you reduced the energy required for digestion, potentially allowing greater energy allocation to